And good evening, and welcome to MacBreak Studio Live. My name is Mark Spencer. With me is Stephen Martin. How's it going?
It's going great.
I feel like I just said that a minute ago.
Yeah, it felt kind of weird. But anyway, happily back from a little bit of vacation, a little holiday.
Each of our respective vacations, yep. And you did some cool stuff this vacation. I didn't really shoot. I purposely left my MacBook Pro at home.
Yes.
And brought my iPad, my iPhone, and that was it. And decided to see if I could get by without it. But you didn't bring your Mac, but you brought your GoPro.
Well, yeah, I'm always like, I don't know, vacations are cool, but I get bored really fast, so I have to have something to do.
You're not a lie on the beach.
No, I'm not a lie on the beach kind of guy. So I got one of those GoPro cameras, and I outfitted it with a little $50 housing, and I took it everywhere. Took it in the pool, took it, in the surf, took it to, on the boat. It was fantastic. Cool. I had a lot of fun with that.
And we'll get to look at it a little bit in a moment here. I want to tell everybody, if you're watching this show, you have the opportunity to ask questions, and we will do the best to answer them. In fact, today we're really going to focus on sort of tips and tricks about Final Cut Pro 10 in motion. And we've got a few here that some of you have given us, some of our own, and but we'll also primarily answer your questions as best we can. If you have questions, if you want to ask them during the show, there's a box to this side of your screen where you can sign in. You have to sign in. You just email at, just do what it says, and that gets you in, and you can post questions. You can also vote questions up and down. So if you see somebody else ask a question that you want answered, go ahead and vote it up, and I'll see it on this magical device right here.
Revolutionary magical device.
Which we've already got a couple people not asking questions, but saying hello. So hello, Alex Gallner, because he's a good fan, always in there, and always has some great stuff to add. Great to see you, Alex. So that's the deal. Sign in, ask questions. We'll answer them as best we can. To get things started, we'll talk about a couple things, show a couple tips. So, in fact, we've been today here in Petaluma, California at the Pixel Core Studio recording some of our weekly shows that we do on MacBreak Studio that you can find on iTunes if you search for MacBreak Studio. We do little 10-minute episodes on different subjects. And we were talking a little bit about some stuff, like you cut together some stuff from your vacation, and we're talking about secondary storylines a little bit, right?
Yeah, but I definitely want to talk about that. If you could look at my screen here, this is all my GoPro footage. The thing about the GoPro is, I had a 32 gigabyte card, and I shot for 6 days, and I didn't even fill up half the card. But what's really great about the GoPro, of course, is it shoots under video, it shoots stills. It has this great feature where it shoots 10 frames or 10 high resolution images a second. So you set the camera up.
It's like a burst mode.
Like a burst mode. You take a picture, it's like 10 images. So you get some pretty nice still action photos, and it almost seems like it's like a really fast shutter speed, because like here's one where you can see it just captures all the little a splash of the water. It's just a fantastic vacation camera.
And that's it looks very wide angle. Looks like almost a fisheye. That's not adjustable, is it?
It is. The GoPro camera, we're talking about the Hero 2.
The Hero 2. Okay.
You can adjust what's called the angle or field of view.
Mm-hmm.
And you can adjust it to, I think, 127 degrees. Then there's a 90-degree setting. There's somewhere else in there. I can't remember offhand what it is. There's 3
but it is adjustable.
Exactly. So, like, you could see that you do get some vignetting around the edge, which can easily be cropped out. As a matter of fact, speaking of images, when you are working with images like this, I'm going to just go ahead and throw one in the timeline. It's important to understand what Final Cut does with it. So because this particular image is much higher resolution than the HD 1080
than the video.
It's important to know that, so that when you go into the inspector, you can have some control over that image. If you scroll down here, this thing called spatial conform, it's set right now. If you look, it's set to fit.
You might need to zoom in a little bit there. I don't think people might not be able to see that.
So let's see here. Let's scroll down and fit. It's set up here. I don't think it's set up for scrolling. Anyhow, but there's a fit option, and what it does is just that. The photo will be fit to the HD.
So the whole photo is there, even though it gets pillar boxed or letterboxed, depending.
And then you can choose, fill. which it fills, and then you can see what's doing if you go click the crop marks. So I'll go ahead and zoom out.
So the transform controls here.
Right, when I zoom out, you can see what it's doing. It's
right.
filling the frame. And then the last option here is none. And basically it allows you to completely, you could see.
So now it's 100% scale at this point.
100% scale, and now I can pan and zoom and really move that image around the frame, and I could set up keyframes for transforms or scales and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back to fit, so you can see that's kind of like the default. But you do have a lot of essential, room for manipulating these high resolution images.
Right in Final Cut. Very cool.
So,
any tips on bringing this footage into Final Cut? Is it just a straightforward process?
I'm glad you brought that up, because the footage that the GoPro shoots is essentially a MPEG-4. It's a highly compressed format. It's able to get, I had a 32 gigabyte card on that camera, and in order to get all that video on, you just do some serious compression on it. Now, the thing is that Final Cut Pro 10, even though on a super fast computer, it will be able to play it back, but it sometimes plays it back a little steppy. In fact, you'll see here.
If you're using the original material.
If you're using the original MP4s that you ingest from the camera. If I play this back,
can you just set the viewer back to fit there?
Shift Z. Yeah. So if I play this, you'll notice that Final Cut has somewhat of a difficult time. Right here, it's playing all right. This is the MP4s. See, but it's now starting to get a little chunky monkey here.
Yeah.
So what I recommend, particularly with the GoPro footage, is to actually optimize it, not optimize, but turn it into proxy media. And you could do that on the import. In fact, if you go to the Final Cut Pro preferences and go into import, this is what I did. I checked create proxy media. Now, what's great about Final Cut is right now it's pointing to the actual original MP4 media. But if I go back to preferences and then playback, because I've already encoded or transcoded,
you've created
I've already created it during ingest, I could just simply switch to this box,
use
proxy media, and just like that, seamlessly and without any muss or fuss, Final Cut Pro is now pointing to the proxy media. Notice all my clips are still there. There's nothing that's changed other than the fact that this timeline is now pointing to proxy media.
So every clip in the event and every grip in the project has now kind of like Final Cut goes picked up and reconnected them to this proxy media.
It's like what it did is like it had unsplugged from the original media folder and then plugged into the proxy
and now you should have very smooth playback.
Right? Yeah, so the playback should be just spot on now. And what's great about this is for slower computers, you can see how it's playing back right now. There's no issues with dropping frames, and you can just work with this GoPro footage. It's just fantastic. One of the downsides, or I shouldn't say downside, one of the gotchas of switching to proxy media is that if you have other events that you're working with, like here's a couple events here that are, you'll click here and you'll notice that where did all my media go? This is something.
This is a heart attack.
Yes, it is, because new users don't understand that. Why is that media offline? Because right now Final Cut Pro is looking for the proxy media folder.
It's universal.
Yes,
it's for all events, all projects. Exactly. When you switch it, it's looking for proxy media if it doesn't see any.
Right.
At least it says mixing proxy as a hint, like, oh, I never created proxy media for that particular event, for that particular media.
But you can go into the info and then down here and say, let's see here, show file status. What's nice is you get this thing, it tells you right here, the green is you have original
what's
media,
available.
And the proxy's red. There's no proxy. I have this selected. This is what's great about Final Cut. I can turn that into proxy right here by
proxy.
Just generate proxy, and right then it comes online immediately. It just took that clip and turned it into proxy media.
Well, even it might still be doing it in the background, right?
Well, that was a short clip. I think that was fairly fast, but I can
because often it'll show it even though it's not even created yet, because it'll show you the thumbnail at least of the original media until the proxy's created. Because I know
that's when you're originally importing it off the card or off the camera.
But here it's waiting until you actually create it.
It won't even show up until you actually click the generate proxy button, and then as soon as you do, it comes online.
Pretty darn fast.
Yeah. Now notice you get two green dots: one original, one proxy.
Yep.
So it's just a fantastic way of working. So I'll go ahead and switch this back.
So the message there is if you see the big dangerous red background, don't freak out.
Well, the first line of defense is you want to go into preferences and you want to make sure that if this isn't checked, Okay, because you think all your media is offline, it may not be.
Yeah,
as
you
soon
just
as
might
you
be
go
pointing
back
to proxy.
as soon as I go back to use original,
It just shows
all
up.
the clips just come.
Yeah,
come
before
back.
you even close preferences window, it comes right
Since
back
I'm going
again.
to work with this GoPro for a little bit footage, I'm going to go ahead and continue to use proxy media just because I'm going to get better playback performance while if I show anything else in here. So. The other thing you asked me was about
the secondary. I mean, you're building. I've noticed in this edit you've built that you've got your music, and we've already had a comment about the music. What is that wonderful audio track? Where did that wonderful audio track come from? I want to use it in my Disney vacation video.
Well,
I like this music. It's perfect for
really
this part.
is, but I will warn you. I don't want to warn you, but I'm a big fan of really good music. I think good music really makes a video. And I spend at least 1 or 2 days a month scouring every major music site. I'm not a big fan of the buyout sites because the stuff sounds very canned, very, I don't know, it just doesn't, it's just lacking flavor. And I want stuff that's professionally produced. So I find a few sites that are based in Europe, and if you want, you can email me and I'll be happy to send links to you. And I found some sites where they're studio musicians, the great sound. They sound like they belong in a commercial, like this one.
Yeah.
The downside is you're going to pay a premium for it. Like that particular song was $231.
Okay.
Just for one song.
Right.
So for me, if I'm going to be putting it in a venue where a lot of people are seeing it, I don't think that is an unreasonable amount to get the song that you want.
Yeah, if it's the kind of song that really works for you, the footage that you're using.
So I'm trying to think off the top of my head what the name of this particular site was. I have like I've got at least 5 major sites that I'm using right now.
We can post it or tweet it later.
Yeah, just tweet it, and I'll just tweet it later, and you can check it out.
Okay, so we were mentioning you've got your music here on the audio is on the primary storyline.
Correct.
So I guess you were using that and I see a bunch of markers there, so this seems to be a music-driven piece.
It's absolutely music-driven. I added markers at essentially every eighth measure. But you can, of course, when you can hit play, and as it's playing, you can press the M key, So there's a downbeat, and then there's a...
Yep. So the same you might have done in like Final Cut Pro. Just tap the M key as you're playing, and then I have I don't know, I call it white man's disease, where I have all my markers a little off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like quite on the beat. It's like I'm the lane dancer.
You're going to close because your clips aren't going to be. You're not going to want to cut your clips exactly on the beat.
Right, but I need to adjust my markers because I'm not always hitting the beat right when I should be hitting the beat.
For me, I have a cup of coffee that morning. I'm just
slow. So then you did all of the video as connected clips.
Yeah, in fact, I want to talk about this. This particular, you'll notice I do something unusual here. This for people coming from Legacy Final Cut or Premiere, it's just odd to see the audio take up the main track. Now, Final Cut Pro doesn't use tracks, but this is called the primary storyline. And again, it's just a way of thinking about it. Since this edit is primarily driven by music, the music should be the primary storyline.
Yes.
So that's the idea. So the music is the primary storyline, and I'm marking it. And then what I'm essentially doing is overcutting with the Q key, and I'm doing connect edits. And I'm just essentially going in here, and I'm just overlaying using 3-point editing. I'm just laying in the clips. And what's really great about the magnetic timeline is like, I really want this shot a little bit longer. I'm not constrained. When I was working in Final Cut 7, you're always constrained by the clips around you. Constantly, you're running into clips. Your little thing, clip collision, you can't move it.
Right.
But see now, I'm not constrained at all. I can pull this. Notice as I pull this back, the other one just kind of flops down in space.
Right.
And I really want to make this, I really want this shot a little longer, but because this connected clip is above it,
you can't see it.
You can't see it. So what I just do is just shift drag this up and just orient that just like that. Just the magnetic timeline. And now I have this is the prior. So I'm not limited in any way at all by the ability to adjust.
Right. Very easy to move things around.
Very easy to move these things around.
Although you have some limitations once you just connect a bunch of clips like that. If you want to swap them around, if you want to switch the order of the clips or do some editing on them.
The problem, I don't know if you look at a problem, but because these are individual connected clips, in other words, they have one connection line, I can't just easily swap them in place. I mean, it's functioning like you would expect the magnetic timeline. One of the things I find really handy are secondary storylines, because with a secondary storyline, you can group clips and then they behave as though they behave like they would in a primary storyline. You can use a rolling edit tool, you can swap, you can do a bunch of stuff, and you can also clean up your edit. Like this is starting to get fairly messy. So let's just say, for example, that I have these set of clips right here. I've got a bunch of, and I just, this series of clips, I always want to stay together, but I may want to experiment and try that series of edits maybe somewhere else.
Somewhere else in it.
Exactly.
Right. But you like that tells a story right
tells
now.
a
Those
story
6 or 7
right
clips
there. So,
belong together and they're working for you.
So exactly. So in this sense, I've got them all grouped, and we're going to perform a group operation. And by right-clicking on there, it says create storyline.
Okay.
And the shortcut, of course, is Command G. Just think Command G, G for group. Boom. And now I have a secondary storyline. How do I know that? Well, secondary storylines have a telltale sign. They have like a bar over the top, which we call the
whole
shelf.
The whole thing seems to be inside of a box, and the box has a ridge on the top.
You have one connection line.
Right. For the whole thing.
Right. Did you have a shortcut for zooming in? It was Command.
Up here, Command Option plus.
Let's see what happens.
There we go. There we go.
That's
everybody's saying, "Oh, okay, now we see what you're talking about."
They're a little connection. Notice with these individual connected clips, I get one connection point for every clip.
Right.
With a storyline, I have one connection point for the entire group. Got to be careful where you click, though.
You don't know what's going to show up.
What's nice is I can just move this whole thing as a group.
Yep.
You notice?
Or copy paste it.
Copy paste, and all the other clips kind of move. They give quarter to it as I move it right or left, and then I can also copy it. So if I select it, I can go up to here and edit, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'll just go down to the end of the timeline. Actually, let me go ahead and get rid of that. Was that still image we were working with earlier. So I'm going to just go ahead and select. I'm going to say I want to paste it there, so Command V. And I pasted the entire storyline later. So I might want to try to see how this particular edit, this group of clips works towards the end of the sequence instead of maybe in the middle.
Or you could paste it to a whole nother, you might have a whole nother project, a different version of this project or something.
You can actually copy the entire group, the storyline, and paste it into another project.
And now you can do more things with those clips in relationship to each other because they're in that secondary storyline.
In fact, you said it. Remember I said that you couldn't easily swap two individually connected clips, but now that they're in the secondary storyline, you can just grab this clip and you can swap them, you can move them around, you can change the order. It's just very, very simple to essentially change the sequencing of the clips inside it. The other thing that's handy is like trimming. If I go and get the trim tool which what's wonderful about Final Cut is the trim tool is now a 4-in-1 tool. Like in Final Cut's legacy, you had like 4 different trim
slip,
tools.
Slide, ripple, and roll.
Slip, slide, ripple. 4 different tools. It's like crazy. Now you have one tool. Now, the thing about this, I've got the rolling edit tool. I can't really roll 2 adjacent connected clips.
Okay.
But as long as the clips are adjacent in a secondary storyline, I can actually roll the edit, which I couldn't do if there were not.
And you get, I guess, if you did zoom out while you're rolling, do you see the 2 edit points?
Yeah, you actually get the two up display.
Yeah,
right, which is really
helpful. I mean, required, really.
Yeah, and there's another thing that's I want to point out is that if I switch to the selection tool, now you can also ripple. Now, keep in mind when I ripple, it's going to change the, of course, overall length of the storyline because you're shortening it.
Right.
But if you don't want to change it and keep the timing, this is something I covered today in our MacBreak episode, so I'm kind of stealing my own thunder here. But if I chose the position tool, I can essentially still ripple it. But as I'm rippling it, it's leaving a gap clip there, so I end up so the timing is maintained.
So you wanted this whole thing to last exactly 15 seconds or 10 seconds.
But I wanted to shorten this up because I really need another shot placed in there. So a lot of versatility here, really a ton that you have for secondary storylines that you wouldn't have if you just had single connected clips.
Yep.
So really, I think powerful a way to work in a particularly music-driven spot like this, where you want to try out different sequencing of shots and what have you.
So I have some questions related to that. Mm-hmm. There's also a potential registration problem. This is maybe a note to Carolyn that somebody just tweeted that people are saying that they're having trouble registering. User registration seems to be broken. Well, it may be, but there's a lot of people we've got a lot of questions coming in, so some people are able to get in. But Carolyn, if it's possible to look at that and see, please do. Refresh your browser. Okay, so if you're not able to sign in order to ask a question, try refreshing your browser and try again. Oh, one thing I just remembered, do we have a URL for watching the show on an iOS device?
Yes, we do, and I tweeted it on the Pixel Core account.
If you go to the Pixel Core Twitter account, so just at Pixel Core?
Yep.
Okay, so, yes?
He actually is having voices in
Okay,
his head.
so
right
yeah,
now.
I'm having Carolyn in Nova Scotia is talking to me, and if you go to at Pixel Core, if you follow that PIXELCORPS, you'll see a link that you can watch this on an iPad or an iPhone as well, because that's been relatively new. We only started that a few episodes ago.
Excellent. So what's our first question?
Well, there's several. First, there's I think more of a comment from Alex.
Mm-hmm.
You can cut to the beat while the video keeps playing. Well, if the primary storyline is a gap clip with music connected below, Command B will play while playing cuts the gap clip. And we actually did that during the MacBreak Studio. So that's Alex. That's right on. And in the MacBreak Studio, it might even be out next week.
Yeah.
Or the week
weeks,
after.
whatever.
We'll go through that. That's an alternative way to approach this, right?
Yeah, you can actually have a big gap clip and then you just blade it essentially.
You could lift that from the primary storyline.
You can actually select it and then Command Option up arrow. And then you have this gap clip, and then you can go in and you just
while you're playing, just hit Command B.
Yeah, while you're playing it, Command B, and then you're cutting up the.
And then you can do replace edits on the gaps.
Yep.
Absolutely, that's just another approach that works very well. Stream feedback. The background looks great, pure black lighting, even better than last time. So kudos to the crew. For a good setup tonight. Working with non-standard frame rates. I've got some clips that have a frame rate of 12 frames per second that I'd like to edit at their native frame rate. Not having much success with that. Any suggestions or tips?
Okay, so repeat the question.
So he's got clips that are 12 frames per second.
Okay.
And he wants to edit them at their native frame rate.
At 12?
At 12, yeah.
There's no way to do that.
Well, there you go.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
You have to conform it. You actually have to work at the video friendly frame rates that are provided within Final Cut.
Right.
So you have a project and you use custom settings and you go to video properties. Here it is right here. There's your frame rates.
Your options.
Yeah, actually, let's try even if you go to other, you're still limited to video friendly frame rates.
Mm-hmm.
You're just locked to that.
And there are some workarounds for the resolution. There's also a fixed number of resolutions in the pop-up menu for resolution there. It's right where it says 640 by 40 right now. If you come off of that, if you get off of that menu, right there. But you can, besides those resolutions, or that's only other. But if you get off of other, you've got your standard HD resolutions.
Right.
There are other ways of using compound clips to do custom resolutions.
Correct.
But I don't know if that would work for frame rates.
No, frame rate's going to be...
And if it did, Alex will let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be tough to do. Audio track we talked about. Let's see. Editing a documentary from Chris. Just looked at Steve's storyline with the music and have a question about how you'd approach laying out a documentary that has musical elements but is driven by the VO. Would you lay the dialogue on the primary storyline and attach the music, or build the audio in a compound clip and then use the compound clip in the primary storyline?
Well, first of all, there's no right or wrong answer. My answer would always be, what is the primary driving audio element? Most of the time it's documentary. It's going to be, voiceover. It's going to be talking heads, interviews, that sort of thing. Right. And you're going to drop that. Those are the things I would drop into the primary storyline, and then the music would be connected.
Yeah.
So everything that would show up here. In fact, let's go to something that's very similar to doc style. In fact, I'm going to go back to preferences and turn original media back on so that we're not pointing to the proxy folder, and then go into your Quintessa, because there's some stuff in here. Let's see.
I love seeing everything coming back online while you're doing that.
So I'm going to open up this finished Quintessa, because you can see here, this is very much doc style. And Mark actually cut this, and how he cut it, and this is a really good way of seeing what he did here. But I zoom in here so you can see. What he did was he's got his music down here as a connected clip.
Yeah.
And then what he did was he was essentially overcutting. You have these blacklight. You could probably talk about this yourself. You got it.
I'm right here.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah. So what I did is I started with definitely with a voiceover of Charles talking down here.
Because that was the main audio.
Yeah. So I built some pieces just with him. I wanted to hear what he had to say, and I laid that in first. And then from there, I knew I wanted some pieces before or after him, and that's where I started laying in some other clips. They weren't originally separate storylines like they are now, but originally laid them in front and then built little separate storylines out of them afterwards. But I definitely started with what my main character needed to say.
And he was in the primary storyline.
He's in the primary storyline. So that's a primary storyline. And then I've got these gaps in order to connect the secondary storylines because I don't need any content right there.
There was something else. We had a conversation recently with someone that was pointing out that when you're in those primary story like you're here, is everything is meant to stay in sync here. So like if I double click here and to spread this out, you could see here, this is the audio for this particular interview. What's important about putting this particular primary storyline, when you want to start going in here and doing L cuts and J cuts, you have to think about the primary storyline, just it kind of locks them and keeps things in sync for you. Sometimes people ask, why don't I get their out of sync flags like I used to in Final Cut 7? Well, you don't really need them because the video and audio, as it's represented here, should never, ever, ever, ever go out of sync.
Now, you can force them to. You can break those apart.
Right. You can actually go ahead and break apart and like that, and then you can. But you're not. It's not really the
not a good idea.
System is not designed to do that. It's really designed to keep that clip always with the video, so things always stay in sync.
And maybe you just want to describe the two different commands, because there's a command that does what you did just there, that just shows the audio separate from the video, but it doesn't actually detach it. It doesn't break it apart.
Right. That's simply, this is called expanding the audio.
You're just expanding it.
So if you double click on the audio waveform, it expands it.
And then you're able to trim the audio, so you could do, like you say, your J or L cuts separately from the...
exactly.
Or you can add your fades, too, if you're careful.
You got to really watch what the icons are telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that's about to do a fade, and then this is about to do a trim. So I can actually do... in this case, a J cut. So
you could bring in the audio a little earlier.
Right,
in this case, it wouldn't matter because you're not seeing him anyway because we've got some B-roll on top.
Right. And then when you're done, you just collapse the audio. And then, like you said, the other option was to break apart the clip items. And in this case, I don't see any value in doing that, particularly when you want to maintain sync.
Yep.
Right. So this is kind of a long-winded answer to the question, which was, how would you set up your dock? Well, there's no right or wrong answer, but I would typically set it up based on the primary audio content. In this case, it would be the talking heads, the interviews, and that would be in the primary storyline. And everything else is then connected. Music, B-roll clips. You can see Mark made them into secondary storylines.
And it's a very fair question because you might have some, this is all dialogue driven here with a little bit of music, but then you might go to a part that's a musical interlude where there's some music and then you want to cut clips to that music. But you can have that music be a connected clip and set markers on it and cut to it with it being a connected clip. There's no reason you can't do that. You could also drop that music into the primary storyline if you wanted to.
Could do that too.
And that would work as well. So it's pretty flexible, but I like to pick what's the most important thing. And usually it's either going to be, for documentary stuff, it's going to be voiceover driven. And sometimes for promo stuff, a lot of short promo stuff is going to be music driven. Right. Kind of like what you're doing right there. Yeah. Good.
Excellent.
That's cool. Very good. Question about, somebody said, glad you're back. Thank you. Chris, thank you. We're glad to be back too.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, because we weren't here last month because that was a little bit of vacation time and everything. Favorite behaviors. Mark, I love your training for motion. Thank you. Just got the Peach Put press book for Motion 5. Just curious, what are your favorite, most frequently used behaviors?
Good question.
Yeah. So my most frequently used behavior by far is the most boring one. And you probably know what it is.
Sequencing something behavior?
No, those are all interesting. Just fade in, fade out. Fade in, fade out behavior by far the one I use the most often because it's use it all the time. It's because you always want to fade stuff. It's almost like a drop shadow.
On a wish list, I don't know. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to have like basic behaviors built into Final Cut 10? I mean, just where
It'll be cool.
I mean, just where you're like, I just need a fade, just drop a behavior on.
Yep.
You know, that'd be kind of cool.
Favorite would have to be the parameter behaviors. I would say parameter behaviors, things like the link behavior, oscillate, any of those that create animation, and then the sequencing behaviors. So, in fact, we did you'll see in a few weeks one about the sequence paint behavior, but sequence paint, sequence text, sequence replicators.
He makes a paint stroke animate on the wall like a vine.
Like growing vines, to be able to have growing vines that look kind of natural and come on. But great question. The behaviors in motion are fantastic. Very, very useful. Maybe we could show another little tip. Maybe I could show the little drop zone thing.
Oh, yeah. Mark has a fantastic tip
cool.
he wants to share with you.
And this tip, take me 1 second to get out to the little project for this. This tip was shared to me by a user I have a group on LinkedIn, an Apple Motion group. And if you want to be part of this group on LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, look for Apple Motion and submit a request and I'll get you in there. I've been really surprised at, I wasn't sure how big a venue LinkedIn would be for this type of stuff, but it's been very strong. So we've got over 1,000 members on that Apple Motion site on LinkedIn, and a lot of good discussion on there. But one person figured something out about drop zones, which I thought was phenomenal. And it's Ariana. Ariana, I won't say your last name, but I hope you don't mind. I wanted to give you credit for this because I thought it was a fantastic trick. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up a project that has 2 little clips in here. These are a sunrise, time-lapse sunrise shot, and a little tracking shot. At the vineyard that we did last fall. And I'm going to add a transition that includes a drop zone. And what I'm going to do is go to the themes browser here, and down at the bottom I'm going to go to this theme called Tribute, because I know there's something in here with a drop zone. Now all of this applies to anything that includes a drop zone. But we've got this one called Up and Over. I'm going to drop it on here, and I'm also going to make it bigger so we can see what it does. So if I play through this now, slow animation, there's your drop zone, and then we go there to the next clip. Okay, so it's kind of like an intermediate clip that we can stick in there. Now, if I select this up in the inspector here, we've got an option to put some content in the drop zone. Before I do that, I want to show you the content I want to use. I've got a clip over here of the vineyard, and this is Charles again, you saw we were interviewing earlier, who's tasting the grapes to see if they're ready to be picked. Now this clip starts with a shot of the vineyard and then cuts over to him, okay? So just remember that. I'm going to select this again, this transition. I'm going to click on the drop zone, and then I'm going to select this clip of Charles to put in there. I'll click Apply Clip. And if I play this now, we never see Charles.
No.
Right? Because what happens is Final Cut uses that clip from the beginning of the media.
Very beginning of the media.
Yeah, and even if I'd gone to it and first set an in point for it, like let's go, well, I really want it to start here, I'll set an in point for it.
It's not going to help you.
It's, yeah, you already know, it's not going to help me. I can select it, say Apply Clip, and let's play it. And same problem, we never see him. So the way drop zones work in Final Cut Pro 10 is they use the full media. But there's a way around this that Ariana figured out, and it's brilliant. So I wanted to share it with you because I just thought it's fantastic. So I'm going to take this clip where I have gone ahead and set a new endpoint, and I'm going to add it to the project. I'm just going to tap the E key, which appends it to the end of our project. So there it is, and we can see it's trimmed, so it starts with a shot of Charles. So I'm going to go back to this transition. I'll select the drop zone again, and this time, rather than clicking on the version in the event browser, I'll go ahead and click on this version in the timeline, right in the project. I'll click Apply Clip. Let's back up a little here and play through it. And there he is.
That's pretty cool.
So I can determine exactly where I want the endpoint of the media in the drop zone to occur. Now you might say, well, I don't want this extra clip in the timeline. No worries. I'll select it and delete it.
It's still going to use that clip.
It's still going to use that clip. I think that's phenomenal. I think that's just a great, because the drop zones have gotten more and more useful. Like if you double click on the drop zone, you can actually reposition the content of that drop zone, and you can scale it.
That was as of what, 10.0.3?
I think .3, yeah. So you can really, maybe I want to make it more like that. So I can reposition and scale it, which is fantastic.
Fantastic.
But the one thing is not being able to determine what portion of the clip that you want to use. But this is a great, admittedly it's a workaround, but it's a pretty easy workaround, and it's a great thing. So I thought that was exciting to me, and I wanted to thank Ariana for coming up with that. Ariane for coming up with that. It's a great, I think, a cool thing and useful for drop zones. Yes, sir. Okay, so what Caroline is saying to me in my ear here is that if you're having problems registering here, you can tweet your questions to the PixelCore account. It's at PixelCore, at PIXELCORPS, and she will pass them right into my brain, and I will I will do my best to. It'll be hard not reading them, but we'll try that out because it looks like people are having problems registering because usually we have a lot more questions coming up on that right now. So I think people are having troubles registering.
So is that it? There's no more questions? We can go home?
We're done?
No.
Yeah. Bye. Well, we've got a few other things we could talk about.
So, okay. Yeah.
Until that comes up. There's something else. Oh, here we go. Wham! I just got hit with stuff here. Okay. Command, right bracket, and special shortcuts. With timing to music or anything, I love the command right bracket, the trim end command, using to trim a B-roll on the fly when you want it out while playing, for example. Made the trim start and trim end my F1 and F2 keys. Any special keys you have set up that you love and couldn't live without. Okay, so maybe we should explain a little bit what this is from Paul Kovacs. Paul, thank you for the comment and the question. It's a very good one.
Well,
so we can just show a little bit about the trim start and end.
We don't have any B-roll here. We can force some B-roll. There's B-roll. So what he's saying is, I want to be able to trim this really quick. And by the way, I would highly recommend that you turn on clip skimming, which is option Command S, because with clip skimming on, you could relegate your skimming to where the pointer is, as opposed to regular skimming, which will
always show what the project,
And so what's nice about clip skimming is that, I'm going to skim and I want to trim to that point. So I can use option, in this case, right bracket to trim to the skimmer position.
Yeah.
So
and just to clarify, the clip skimming is you can actually see what's below that connected clip now by skimming over the lower one, because normally you would only see the top one, but now what shows in the viewer is whatever your pointer is over when clip skimming's on. Yeah, that's a underappreciated feature.
I agree.
And that command that you just did, the command right bracket to trim, will only work when the clip skimming is enabled on the connected clip, right? Unless you had selected the connected clip.
It's where your pointer is, or where the playhead is. It's going to default to the primary storyline if there's nothing else. This is why I think the clip skimmer is important here, because you just move your mouse pointer in there and then use the command. But Paul's specific question was favorite commands. Now, Final Cut Pro has a pretty robust what's called command editor, and
so you went to Commands Customize.
Commands Customize, right? And what you have here is you could see all how the keys are all mapped up here. You can do a search. So in this case, let's say what we're looking for, trim, and it'll bring up all the trim keys. What's nice is if you click this little button right here, it'll dim the keyboard except the ones that are using the trim. So it's right now it's saying that with a
Can you just zoom in a little closer to see so we can see that? Yeah.
Right. So basically what I typed in trim, and what this does is that it just dims everything and says, okay, those are the primary keys that are essentially trim commands. Now, if you want to remap, and it sounded like Paul, what he did was he remapped the keys to one of the F keys.
Yeah. If you scroll down, if you go down a little bit, you can see the trim commands. There they are: trim end and trim start.
Right.
So you could change. You could change that to something else.
Right. Exactly. You can essentially remap the trim keys. So the key is, and let me go ahead and turn this off. You can't remap them to keys that already have, and you could already have a command on them. How can you tell? The keys have a dot. If there's a dot in the upper right that tells you there's already. So look, that one's the 0 key is not mapped to anything. So technically, I could use that. I could use any keys that aren't mapped, okay, that don't have a dot. and then I can essentially make them shortcuts.
Make a keyboard shortcut using that one. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, that's
Let me show one other one on there because there actually something came up about that. There's a great. The question was about. We talked about this on a prior show about.
See, look at this. Look at this. What I can do. I can actually drag that and drop that.
And drop it on there, and then that will be.
Yeah, but of course, it's going to make a copy.
Yeah, copy
it's
of different.
owned by Final Cut.
Right.
Okay, but I'd want to make a copy of the. Whenever you do this, you're going to want to make a copy of the default set, and I'm going to call this Steve's.
So you don't mess up the default keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah. So you don't mess up. So now, I can then. So I've essentially moved that command over there. And you can just by just drag and dropping, or in this case, you want to map it to an F key. So notice now I have a dot there. So F7 becomes my right trim bracket.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't have any favorite keys, to be honest with you. One thing I do the blade tool because it's Command B to blade. Sometimes I'll map the blade tool to a single key. Like, map it to a single key so it's only F1, so I don't have to hit Command B every time.
I see.
And so every time I hit F1 now, it'll blade whatever's selected.
Well, I'm the same as you. I mean, we both teach a lot, and I generally need to know everything the way this traditional layout.
Yeah.
So I don't make a change, but there is. Leave it on that for a minute because one thing that
I'm still on Steve's face.
Yeah,
right
you can
now.
leave it on that one.
Okay.
One keyboard command that I just somebody tweeted in that I thought was really useful was the ability to toggle color corrections on and off.
Yes.
Because right now, by default, there's no keyboard shortcut. You have to go to the color correction and tap it on and off. But if you go into, let's go into the search field again and just type color, even though there's no keyboard shortcut, there is there's an option for.
Look at. Oh, by the way, when you're doing that, look at all of the commands.
Here, colorboard toggle color correction on off.
Right.
And there's nothing assigned to that right now.
Now what you do is you select it and then you tap the key that you want to assign it to.
Right. So let's say I want to do
A. Oh wait, that's a selection arrow.
Shift Command C.
Yeah. So now Shift Command C now controls the color correction on and off.
We'll turn the color correction on and off.
Yeah.
So super flexible that you can do this, but again, we don't generally don't.
Oh, that's an excellent command. That's my favorite command right there. You can toggle on and off color correction with Shift Command C now.
Okay, we got it. So let's actually do it and make sure we're not. Let's do a quick color correction. Video, and let's just desaturate because that's a quick and dirty. Pretty easy. Let's also do some exposure change so we can really see the difference. And then with this clip selected, what do we say? Shift Command C?
Command C.
Shift Command C. There we go. Bump, 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 bump.
Pretty handy
nice.
shortcut.
That's nice. That's nice. Anything where you don't have to click a button is nice. So that was great. And that was tweeted by a guy named Alien Skin, I think. Where is it? I wrote it down because I wanted to give him credit. And Alien Drink on Twitter. So Alien Drink, thank you very much. That was awesome. Awesome little tip there. Yes. Okay. Saving your keyboard commands to the cloud. Okay, that was a suggestion that you save your keyboard commands to the cloud. I guess so that you don't lose them in an event of a hard drive crash or something. Sure.
Yeah, I haven't done that, but
well, we just don't really make them that often.
Like I said, I just pretty much have used the default set since day one. So,
a couple drop zone comments or questions. Would that drop zone clip work with a favorite as well, or a clip in a smart folder, which Final Cut Pro 10 would treat as a sort of sub clip? Would save having to edit in the timeline? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to work. I haven't tested that, but I don't know why that would work. Just having it be a favorite. It's still in the event browser. Yeah.
Seems like the only way the beauty of what you showed is that you had to put it, in the timeline.
You had to put it in the project. You had to put it in the project for that to work. So I really doubt that would work. For a drop zone, could you mark a favorite keyword of the event and select that instead? Saves from having to. Again, that's the same question. Is it the same person? No, two different people. I don't think so, but. We're here, so let's just take this guy and we'll say
in and out and then favorite it.
in and then F to favorite it.
Right.
So we got a favorite. Let's clear out what's already in here so we don't fool ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So there, and I've got that favorite, and I'll click on the favorite and try that. Oh, I have to apply clip. I always forget the apply clip part. Nope.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry.
Try.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to think. One other thing that you might do.
Just show favorites only.
Yes.
How about if I just show? We'll just show favorites.
Yeah. So
we've
that's limited. Yeah, it's only limited.
Yeah, we're only
to that.
seeing that part of it. Good. Good
try
question.
that.
Good question. Great. All right. So now we'll try it again.
Clear.
And then select this guy, which is just a favorite. Apply clip, and see if that works. Still no go. That was a great idea. That was a great idea, but no go. Show all clips. Good. Great ideas, guys. I wish they worked, but they don't. You got to put it in there. For a drop zone, could you mark a favorite? It's the same. Everybody's having the same idea. Drop zone clip size. Different question here. I love split screen videos. Don't you love split screen videos?
I do. That was a whole feature of split screen videos. No,
there's a movie. There's the conversation.
What's for Francis Coppola?
No, not Francis Coppola. There's a guy, I can't remember his name. It did the whole thing as split screen, and it's this couple at a party. It's a good movie, and it was edited in Final Cut by a guy who did a session at the Pixel Court once, and it's a decent movie. Whole thing split screen. Anyway, sorry, Chris. I love split screen videos and have tried building a generator in Motion to use in Final Cut Pro using drop zones. I'm not sure I understand how the sizing of drop zones works. If I change the scale parameter of the drop zone in the properties panel, the clip will fit the edges of the drop zone. However, if I change the scale parameter of the image parameter, the clip fills the full screen. Yeah, so working with drop zones is a little bit tricky. And I'm not going to be able to answer that question right here. I'll be glad to take it offline with you and go through it a little bit because I've created a bunch of drop zone projects in Motion, and it's a little bit tricky when you build them how to get something fit in just like one side, and usually you want to do some cropping on them if you want something to fit in a split screen. So Chris, if you email me, I'll follow up.
Didn't we create I thought we created a free plugin that had it was like super split screen, and we actually created that.
I think we did a split screen.
I think you can do that, and you can just deconstruct it, and you can see what we did.
You probably could, yeah. If you go to rippletraining.com, we have a bunch of free effects. If you click on the free stuff,
yeah, let's see.
Maybe you can bring it up. Maybe I think there might be a split screen one in there.
Oops.
While you type that in, I'm going to see if there's command right bracket follow up. He's just saying that he'll do the command to trim while he's playing on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, that's great, and that's it's something akin to dynamic trimming from Final Cut 7.
Okay, so here
it's a little hard to see, but
there is we created a
fall transition,
a split screen title. Let's take
there. It is split screen title.
You click that. We gave you a lot of control. You can download this. It's free.
So
and then you can go up there and then.
How did you get there to that page?
I get there. It's a good question. I can't get there ever again. You go to Quick Tips.
Oh, Quick Tips. Okay.
And then you go to Final Cut 10.
Okay.
And then I just scroll down to.
So these are all free effects for Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, and you can see what's nice about this is it shows you what you can do, how you can really affect the script. You gave them quite a bit of control to control that split screen. You can do left, top, left, and there's some basic...
But this, you're going to see that these are full frame drop zones. They're not meant to be, and I think what Chris is going to say, wait a minute, that's not there, that's what he wants to do, something like that. But this is repositioning the content within the drop zone, which is usually, frankly, what you have to do, is just reposition the content within the drop zone when you're in Final Cut Pro.
Well, that's what you gave them controls to do.
Controls to do that,
Source position for the drop zone.
And this was actually before you could do that by double-clicking directly on it in the drop zone, because now you don't necessarily need those, but it's good to have those because it allows you to do things like keyframing if you wanted to move it around in there over time.
Okay.
Drop zone comment, would that drop zone clip work with a favorite? No, we already did that one. It's just been moved up. Solution, drop zones with subclips. You can favorite part of a clip, view favorites, then make a compound clip with that selection. The compound clip can be successfally selected for the drop zone. All right, let's see.
Okay, so select that favorite. We already have a favorite right there. See it?
Well, let me just go back to favorites. And select this guy and make a compound clip.
Compound clip.
And I'll select untitled Then
There
we'll
it
go
is at the
back to
bottom.
here.
There it is at the
Well,
bottom
I'm going to
left.
clear this out just to be on the safe side. Select this. It's in the right down here.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And apply clip.
Looks like it's going
And
to work.
let's see. That works. Beautiful. So that was Ian Anderson. Thank you, Ian. That's another way to do
I
it.
actually like that Ian better because
Do you?
you stay in the event library. You don't have to add
You don't
the
have
clip
to
and
go
then
in there.
delete the
They both take about as many steps.
Yeah.
Because this one's more steps because you're trim. You have to set in-out points, which you have to do in the other one. Then you have to make a favorite, then make a compound clip, versus just set an endpoint, bring it in the timeline. But then you got to delete it.
Yeah.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. But it's nice not to have to put something in the project.
Agreed.
So very good. I like it. That was awesome. We are working together to solve these pressing world problems. You can cut to the. Yes, go ahead, Carolyn. Yes.
While you're doing that, looks like
Carolyn, is there a way that you can that you can add that as, or email, or just put it in the same system, in the ideas system? Are you able to get in and add it as a question? Yeah, or email it to me and I'll switch over and take a look at it there. 'Cause it was a fairly long question. I want to make sure I get it right. Here's a great question, and there's a good answer for it.
was it multicam?
It's multicam.
Do we have any multicam footage anywhere? On the
You can
desktop?
mount it. If you go back to the Finder, there is the multicam tutorial that we can mount, and then it should become available. We kept it out there.
Is it? Right.
No multicam.
I do not see it.
Okay.
Advanced sparse image.
I don't think we have it with us then.
Okay.
So the question is, with multicam, is it possible when you finish? Oops, everything's jumping around here. With multicam, is it possible that when you finish a rough cut of multicam project, to change the audio source of some multiple clips in one click? When I select a group of multicam clips and try to use the menu active audio angle, it's dimmed. So this is totally possible, and this has come up. This is the third time I've seen this in the past 3 days. So the question is, you've got, and I'm sorry we don't have a multicam example right here.
Do we want to create one?
We did have one.
We can create one.
We can just take some clips and make a multicam clip out of them.
Yeah, I actually.
But you're not going to have multiple audio to select from for them. So while you look at that, I'll jabber,
Okay.
and then we'll see if we'll be able to do it.
These guys we can multicam those two. They're from the
Okay.
same sort.
Okay.
One from A and a B camera. We can actually try to multi.
Let's see. See if that'll work.
All right. So.
New multicam clip.
And okay, do we want to just go ahead and throw an all
Automatic. Yeah,
Okay.
let's just do automatic and see if those will sync. Going on the fly here.
They should.
The answer is yes. So hold on a second.
There it is right
there.
there.
It is. So
Can we
now
open
let's
up in the angle
let's
viewer?
go ahead. Let's just go ahead and start cutting it into a project. Why don't you start a new project? Because
Yeah, we can. I thought you might want to see it in the angle. Doesn't really matter, I guess.
well, you could play and start cutting it to cut something in. We need a new project.
All right. I'm
cut
going
into.
to clear up some screen real estate here. All right, there we go. And I'm going to do one other thing too. I'm going to go back to 2 angles.
Since that's all we've got.
There's only 2 angles. I mean, well, we should be able to do what we need to do here. Okay, so we go over here. I'm going to create a new project.
Yeah.
All right, and let's call this MC. That's multicam Marcelo. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll click OK. So we got a blank, and so there's our multicam clip, right?
Yep.
So we just want to edit that in there.
Yeah. So you could just move the playhead forward in time and start clicking on the 2 angles in the angle viewer. And we're set right now. The audio, it's just video. So let's do video and audio slow switch. Yeah, what the heck? I just move the playhead forward a little bit.
Right there.
Yeah.
And just.
I mean, in the project, move the playhead forward.
Well, we're not. It's not even in the project. We're still in the event here. We
Okay.
want to put it in the project.
Sure. You can just put the whole thing in then, and then we can just switch an angle somewhere, and just.
Right. So what was the question? So we can just play this back.
Well, we need a couple cuts in it. So just move the playhead somewhere, and then in the angle viewer, click to make a cut.
Okay.
Yep.
Cut.
Yeah, and then make another cut.
Cut.
Good.
and make another
you
cut.
just tell me your name and your role.
And then I'll show you the deal here.
I'm going to flutter butterfly. Oh, sorry. All right. So there's your. There's your
Great.
cuts.
Okay. So here's the thing that comes up and the issue. Let's say let's Command plus to zoom in a little bit. So we've got several cuts here in a multicam clip. We've got one there, one there. And if you select one of them and right click, you can choose active video angle, either one, active audio angle, either one. But if you select two or more, let's say we want all three of those to have a particular video angle or audio angle. If you right click and choose active video angle, it's grayed out.
Sure.
Active audio angle, it's grayed out. Okay, but here's the answer. And if you had our training, you would know this. I'm going to go to the inspector, and in the inspector, under info, we have not a goddamn thing. Where am I here? I've got the multicam clip selected, because you can go right in the inspector and choose
those are rolls.
which angle. But
Wait,
I know why. So our view.
Yeah,
we're in the wrong view down here. We want to be on the extended view.
Yeah.
Extended view, and then we should be able to see.
There's angles at the top.
There. Thank you. Active video angle, active audio angle. So from here, I can choose. All of them can be A for the video, and all of them could be B, for instance, for the audio. So you can change multiple video or audio angles at the same time, and it's tricky because it makes it look like you can't down here since it's grayed out.
Right.
But you just go to the inspector. That's the answer. Thank you for setting that up. That was.
Did I set it up okay?
You said it perfectly.
Awesome.
Yeah. I haven't done a multicam clip for a few weeks. So I was like, I'm not going to remember how to do this. that was very good. So hopefully that's helpful because I found that to be useful. Compound clip caveat. I love compound clips, but I find that I have to be careful how much I use them. A ton of compound clips starts to bloat my project or event.
That's correct.
Be very conscious of where and how you use them if you need to use them a lot. Yeah, that's very, very true.
Here's the problem with compound clips: is that every time you create one. In fact, let's actually do one here. Let's go back and let's go into here. If I want to turn this into a compound clip, I'm going to right click, new compound clip. There's a compound clip. Now here's why you get bloating. Let's say I want to split that clip. I'm going to just hit Command B. I'm going to split that. I've just created two different compound clips. Those aren't separate. They're not referring to each other. I've literally created a separate copy of a compound clip. And the more you do this, the more RAM you're going to be taking up, and pretty soon you're going to have sluggish performance.
And you're going to have it'll increase your project size too. It's quite a bit. Especially if you do something like then select all of these and make another compound clip out of this.
Oh yeah.
And now you basically are nesting within nests.
Yeah.
And that's frequently
it's the Russian doll nightmare.
Yeah. And especially if you're coming from Final Cut 7 and you've done a lot of that in order to apply effects to multiple clips, and you're used to, or you just you've got a scene that you've done and you say, oh, that scene's locked, and you put in a compound clip. But you might sometimes there's situations where a secondary storyline might be a better solution than a compound clip.
I mean, I think you have to step back and say, what am I using this compound clip for? If I'm just using it to clean up my timeline, you can use a secondary storyline, like I showed you at the beginning of the class. Yes, just use a secondary storyline. The primary reason to compound clip something is, you want to clean up your timeline, but mainly because you want to affect the entire clip with when you might drop a sepia filter or a color correction to the entire virtual compound clip, so it'll affect everything inside it. But as you'll learn by watching in a few weeks from now, Mark, you can actually do things like you can make adjustment layers and stuff.
Yeah.
The point is that you really want to avoid heavy use of compound clips, just like you stated. It's use them sparingly.
Use them sparingly and avoid. I want to hide the angle viewer. Thank you. Shift Command 7. Yeah. You want to avoid compounding clips within compounded clips. A few are okay, but it'll definitely. And that was a great comment from Chris. Thank you. That was very good. Thank you, Chris. You can cut to the beat. Native frame rates. Whoops. So, Carolyn, were you able to send me that question? You emailed it to me? Okay. Then I will see if we can read it that way. We have the technology. We'll figure it out. Here we go. Okay. Most third-party transitions transition effects change the whole frame rather than the clip or title to which it might be applied. I don't understand what that means. Most third-party transitions affect changes to the whole frame.
I think what he's saying is let's just do a simple transition. If I go back to
rather than the clip or title to which it might be applied.
So here's a transition. I'm going to drop that on here. This is, the world doesn't have enough bar slide transitions. You just got to use this. You got to use as many of these as you possibly can whenever you can. Okay. So I guess what I understand is that it's applying it to the whole frame. And what I hear him saying, or whoever's asking, could be a she, is that what if I wanted that transition to apply just to a title? The frame's not going to change, but just the title is going to transition. You know what I'm saying? So like that bar, that crazy bar thing.
You want a bar thing. You want to happen to a title, for example. Well, one thing you can do is apply the transition to a title. So if we were to take a title and drop one in here, so I'll just grab a centered title and we'll do let's just move over here and do a connect edit to bring that title in here. So we've got this title. And you can apply a transition to a title. I'm pretty sure you can. Oh, maybe not. I thought I could do it at the beginning or end of the title.
I see. That's what I'm saying.
You know what? I'm thinking legacy here. So how about if I just select the edge of the title and do a Command T? Yeah, there I've got one.
Well, there it actually put it in a put it in a storyline. Now drop that.
Yeah, now drop this one to replace it, or on the front. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is a current bar wipe is being applied to the title.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look very good because it's not shrinking it down to the title, but that bar wipe is being applied to the title.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but you can apply transitions to a title. If we're not answering it correctly, please try again, and because what he says is an easy modification in motion to make it apply only that clip and not the rest of what's going on the screen. Yeah, William, I'm sorry. I don't know if we're answering your question right, but we're trying. And I think people still have some trouble logging in here, which I apologize for. But I think we've had a few clips here. Yes, Caroline? Another Twitter question. Okay. Okay, so the question is, when you import media into Final Cut Pro, you end up with aliases in the original media folder, and how can I avoid that? Okay. So we've just been talking about that today. It's a very, very good question and a very apt question.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my vacation video because I had something I wanted to show you about. Okay, so go back to my event. Okay. All right. The first thing, when you import, the first place to start is looking at your preferences, which is the most important place to start. Because your preferences are kind of global to how you would import things. And move my iPad out of the way here. Here's the simple solution, is before you import, if you're going to drag in off the desktop into your library, the important thing is that you have to have this check, copy files to Final Cut Events folder. What will happen is when you copy the media, a copy will be placed in the events folder, and Final Cut Pro is going to look in that events folder. I like to refer to it as Final Cut Pro is managing the media internally to itself.
So if you're adding media that's all over the place, it's going to make copies of those in that folder and put it in one place.
But there are advantages not to have that checked. Like,
yeah,
I often don't have it because you hand me this big drive, a terabyte of stuff. I don't want all that copying to my event.
Right.
I just want Final Cut Pro to make references or aliases to it, in which case I would want copy files to Final Cut Pro folder to be unchecked. And so what you end up with is essentially you end up with a bunch of what I call poser files. They're not real clips, they're posers that point to real media.
The aliases.
But in terms of how Final Cut Pro deals with it...
It's kind of derogatory.
I think it's not derogatory. They're just like fake. They're posers. They're fakers. They're posers.
They're pretending to be the real thing.
Yeah. So like when I right-click on any of these clips here, any of them, and I go to Reveal in Finder, you could see that these are real clips. And one way you could tell is that they actually have thumbnails. The clips that are posers, i.e. aliases, some people call them sims, is that they have a little hook.
Little hooked arrow.
In fact, let's do something. Do we have that? I'm talking to the crew here. Do we have that little thumb drive that we used earlier? I'm going to have that. This is a little thing I showed earlier with regard to importing media, because it's a fairly common thing that happens. And I think this would be very instructive. So, as the crew gets it, basically...
you could also open one of the disk images that we have on the desktop if they don't have it, and import the media from one of those events. But no, they'll mount, though. They'll mount as soon as you open them.
They'll all mount. Here, I could show you another thing that's real important. See, I'm going to go here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's see, find a piece of. I'm going to get some. Did you? No. Okay, I'm going to go in here and get some medium.
I think you're in a project. You want to get into the event.
All right, I'm going to grab a piece of media here. All right, this one's called Grape Cluster. So I'm just gonna drag this to the desktop here. Okay. All right. So now this is great. Let's say somebody gave me this on a flash drive or drive, a piece of media. I've got it sitting there. I've plugged the flash drive in. I need to move it into Final Cut Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure before I do this, go to Preferences, and I'm going to make sure that Copy Files is not checked.
It's not checked. Okay.
And then what I want to do is we'll go ahead and drag that into, let's see, that's into the Quintessa. Let's see. I'm going to drag it into Charles here. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to drag this whole clip and just drop it into Quintessa, Charles.
Into that event.
Into that event.
Okay.
So that one's called Grape Cluster, right? So
it's called Clips for...
Right. So I've just dropped that clip in, and I'm going to open this up and select it, and now I've got to find where it is. That was so I'm going to type in the search field grape. That should be Grape Cluster.
Let's see. Yeah.
I think that's Grape Cluster Morning.
Grape Morning. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Okay. One way I can find out is going to List View. And yeah, that's it.
Great.
So if I right-click on this file and choose Reveal in Finder, you'll see that file is a poser. Because
it's got a little hooked arrow. Yeah, that's an alias.
The problem is if I go to the desktop and trash that file, in other words,
the original one
sitting on the desktop.
Yeah, so you eject the drive and give it back to them, and they leave.
They leave. You're going to end up with offline media.
Yeah, so you're done. You're done. You're supposed to be editing, and you've got nothing. So the shoot's over. They handed you some cards, and you did that.
You did that. You went out and you trashed
They left,
the media.
And they're like, "Where's the edit?" And you're like, "Well,
because
I got a little
what
problem."
Is this pointing to? Because if I right-click on this and say Show Original, guess where it's going to go?
To that thing on the desktop.
It's going to go to that
file on the desktop.
So you eject the flash card or drive or trash that, you're basically hosed.
And you say Show Original, and it'll make a sound. It'll go wah wah wah.
It will, and you're right. And that's a sound of you never working in this town again.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one command that I showed later today is this really great feature that if you're not sure if you have poser media and real media in the same event.
Yeah, because you have one event here with a whole bunch of media.
I could have like
you don't
100
know.
clips. Half of them can be posers, and the other half can be real.
Yeah.
Right?
Which one of you is lying to me?
Which one of you? Exactly. So it's. Do you ever see the Carpenter's The Thing? Anyway, they clone. Anyway, these are.
Sorry.
All right. Anyway, never mind. My little esoteric movie reference. So I'm going to select. I'm going to select the event, and I'm going to go to File. And there's this great thing here called Organize Event Files.
Okay.
And so I'm going to choose that. I call this gathering all your eggs into one basket. This is what I call this little trick. And basically what it does is it scours every connected drive where Final Cut Pro is referencing external media. In other words, media that when you initially imported it did not check copy into event library.
So in that event, in that media folder, if anything has an alias, it's going to replace that with the original media, assuming it can find it.
Assuming it can find it, exactly. So I go, Organize events, and it'll say here, and might as well, whenever there's big dialogue boxes,
let's read it.
Let's read it. I always click OK and just not worry about it.
I say let's read it, and you say just go.
No, just click OK. Just click continue. Just forget about what it says. The selected event refers to files outside the event folder. To copy all external media into the event folder, click continue. You cannot undo. I like it when it says you can never go
Yeah,
back.
I know.
Unlike Cortez, we burned his ships. All right, so there we go. So now, what you need to see here, after I've done that, and I now go back to that same file that was pointing to a poser file, and I go to, where is it, Reveal in Finder, you'll notice that now,
the poser is gone.
The poser's gone. It's
been replaced.
Actually been replaced by real media.
The real one came along and kicked his butt out of there.
Yeah, and so now you can.
Nice.
Can you? The question is, can you trash that media file on the desktop or pull out that thumb drive or removable media? Yes,
now you can.
Now you can.
Now you can.
Now you know that you actually have real media, not poser media.
So the big thing I got out of that is being able to check to make. You've got an event with hundreds of clips, and you don't know if some of it is reference media or source media. To do the organized event will clean that up for you.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's
huge,
really great.
I tell you, huge.
That's a very, very good tip. Our friend Alex has written in saying that you can, in fact, edit at native frame rates. So if the person who wrote earlier about editing at 12 frames per second, I'm sorry, you're not on my screen anymore, so I can't say your name. So here's the answer, and this answer, by the way, is very similar to some very interesting ways that you can look at time code and look at native time code on a clip, which is something else that Alex has written about recently. So here's the deal: if you select the clip in the event, choose Duplicate from the File menu, select the clip, the duplicated clip, and Open in Timeline. I've created timelines with frame rates. So the basic idea is if you open a clip in its own timeline, you will be able to see its native time code. If you put a time code generator on it, it'll show the native time code, not the project time code. Because the project time, basically, when you open a clip in its own timeline, that project has that clip's time code, frame rate, resolution, everything.
So just go over it again, because it's so esoteric and it's not. Yeah. It's almost like undocumented, and it's just weird. I mean, because how's the average person going to even know this? Except
first duplicate. He said duplicating. I think that's to be on the safe side.
You're right. So we go to the File menu where it's Duplicate Clip, Command D.
Yep, and then double click it.
No, I thought you made a.
Right click, Open in Timeline. Open in Timeline.
Open in Timeline.
Yeah.
All right, so it's now.
So there it is,
okay,
and that's basically it, because right now that timeline is has the frame rate of that clip, has the resolution of that clip.
How do we know
has
that?
Has the time code of that clip.
I mean, how do we know that? I'm not.
No, that's good.
It,
no. How do we prove it?
You select it, and then go over to info, and and if that was a 12 frame per second clip, then by clicking on this timeline or opening it, it should say 12 frames. Or clicking in here.
It should. We don't have something to be able to prove it here. I can show you if you put a timecode generator on it, you would see the actual source timecode of the clip. Although this is from a 7D, so that's not going to be a good example.
Here's my basic problem. Okay, and again, I hear what he's saying, and all right, and my response is, okay, that's great. You could do it this way. But here's the problem, Mark. At the end of the day, it doesn't do you any good, because in order to output it, I believe you still have to put it in a project, which is a fixed
you can output it from right there. At least is what he's saying. Right. So let me just finish what he said. I've created timelines with frame rates as varied as 0.73 frames per second, 300 frames per second, and 1200 frames per second, with resolutions as varied as 200 by 200 and 539 by 873. I'd love to see why that's the case, but that's pretty cool. If you edit in this timeline, then the duplicate clip becomes a compound clip. Yeah, so as soon as you make any edits in there, that'll become a compound clip. That's absolutely right. You can use the share menu to export.
Okay.
So
basically, I go in here, I make an edit, and I'm going to make a Command B, make an edit.
And get out of list view so we can see if we get a different icon on this as a compound. You can see the icon down there as a compound clip. Do we see the little badge on it? I can't quite see. And there's no badge on it up there to indicate it's a compound clip.
Nope.
But down below in the timeline...
There should be a badge right there.
Yeah, there should be. In the timeline, though, if you go down further, that indicates a compound clip right there. All right. And then you can share that. So
basically, you don't create a project, according to Alex. You go ahead and create a compound clip of this odd frame rate thing, edit it all day, and then you export using the share menu, and then you get the 12 frames per second. 22.94321 frame rate clip. that you need.
So it's interesting. I mean, the basic idea is that when you open something in a timeline, that timeline respects all the attributes of that clip. We're not able to prove it right here. We'll have to try it out afterwards.
I take him at his word.
Well, I take him at his word because the other stuff he's done has been absolutely right on.
I don't know. I would never use this personally. I don't know when I.
Well, we usually do standard things. Where I see people, sometimes people need to do not necessarily non-standard frame rates, but they need to create non-standard resolutions for displays.
Yeah, right. They're shooting,
tall
they're shooting
displays.
this way with their phone.
They're shooting that with their phone.
Right.
Or there's a lot of displays. You go in the airport. There's a lot of those tall, skinny displays that you need.
So this would be a way to
create content for. Yeah, that would be a way to do it. So it's very interesting. And
all right, cool.
Thanks for asking questions about Multicam. It's amazing, and it worked. And I purchased your training on Multicam on the day one. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Next question is about editing in proxy. I imported my clips from the camera to the external drive, and ProRes 422 footage took 200 gigs of my external drive. I made proxy files inside Final Cut Pro 10, and I now want to move them onto my internal drive, and it cuts off there. So they want to move their proxy files, is what it sounded like.
All of that is managed within the event. So let's go back to my.
And by the way, just from a timing perspective, we are going to go back maybe 10 more minutes. About an hour and a half program, so this may be the last question. If there's something you're burning to know, see if you can get it into the feed or get it into the Twitter at PixelCore, and Carolyn will tell me what it is.
Okay.
And send it away.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
When you import the footage, just do a quick review. When you import the footage using the preferences, you're going to choose at that. You can choose at that time whether you want to create optimized media or proxy. The difference is like huge. An hour of ProRes media will take up 66 gigabytes of space. Mm-hmm. An hour of proxy will take about 22 gigabytes of space. Now, someone correct me on that. I'm rounding right now.
Okay.
It's 20 gigabytes versus nearly 65 gigabytes for proxy versus ProRes.
And they're meant for very different things.
They're different things, right? Mm-hmm. For example, here's, in fact, I'll get to your question in a moment. I'm editing with GoPro footage. I see no point in creating optimized media.
Right, we were talking about this at lunch today.
I see no point at all. I'm going to work with the proxy media, okay? When I'm done, I'll delete the proxy media, and then Final Cut Pro automatically redirects itself to the original media folder.
How do you delete the proxy media from within Final Cut Pro?
I don't. I quit Final Cut and I delete it from the Finder. Delete it from the Finder.
And then Final Cut says, I don't see it anymore. I'll go home.
Yeah, right. It should automatically redirect to the.
Or you could redirect it in preferences.
You redirect it in preferences, and then you could literally go into the Finder and find the proxy folder inside the transcoded media folder and trash it.
Okay.
Right. And so you can. That begs it doesn't beg the question, but you could do the same thing with optimized media. You could go into the transcoded folder and find the optimized and trash that.
And it would point back to the source of the original media.
And then, right, exactly. But I really see no point in creating both. It's going to be, I guess, in some situations.
It depends what you're doing.
Depends on what you're doing. I don't want to, make blanket statements like I just did. But in some cases, you might want to create optimized media because you want. I don't know. You want a little bit higher bit rate. You want a little bit more data to represent each one.
Or here's an example. Some source media like that if you had a ton of that GoPro footage, that can take, when you do switch back to it to render out, that can take a very long time to render. Any of this interframe codec stuff, where there's aren't iframes, it can take a real long time to render. So in that case, you might create optimized media when you bring it in. And render out with that, because that ProRes media is going to render very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just kind of pick up the refrain from Mark, is that it depends on what you're doing. Yeah. For me, all this GoPro footage, I know I'm editing in proxy because I want really fluid playback on my MacBook Pro. I don't want hiccups. I want it to play. Right. And then when I'm done, I know that I'm not going to need that. I'm going to when I go playback, I'll switch. I'll edit using proxy, and then when I'm done, I'll go to the Finder, delete the proxy media, and then I can.
You could see it switch just when you click that button right there.
You could see it redirect.
Yep.
Okay. And then at the end of the day, I'll end up with original media in my timeline that I'll export from. And what's also nice is that it's going to create a smaller footprint for archiving. I don't want to archive all of that proxy media. It's like there's no
reason
point.
to. Right.
And I just showed you can actually create proxy media on a clip-by-clip basis if you need to in the inspector.
Now, if you wanted to move that proxy media, just wouldn't moving the event, the proxy media is going to be created in the event.
It's going to create the event bundle.
So if you move the event, that should move the proxy media.
It will.
So
Absolutely.
you can just choose to move the event.
You can if I had if this drive here, I can actually grab this whole event. Let me zoom in here. I can actually grab this whole event, and I can, let's just say that's my connected drive. I got a lot of space on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a sparse image. I don't know what I have left, but I can literally drag that, and it's going to move everything onto that sparse disk.
Or you can use the command also, right, to move the event. There's a file move event.
When you use the command, one will be a duplicate, which will actually remove it from its original location.
Yes.
In this case, it's going to actually make a copy.
Well, it's a little safer.
A little safer, and of course, it says right here, you're going to duplicate the event, and it's going to put it on that. I got 20. I actually could put it on there if I wanted to, and it's going to move proxy media, original media. And anything associated with that event. It's going to move onto that target.
So you probably, it sounds like within one event, you can't separate the proxy. If you've got in that event, you've got proxy media, you've got original media, unless you've got optimized media too. Those all need to be in that same location.
Correct.
That you couldn't say, because I could see sometimes you'd want the proxy media on your MacBook Pro, and you'd want the Optimedia on a hard drive, on a big hard drive.
Final Cut Pro, like I said, it stares at its own belly button all the time. It does. It's always expecting certain folders and files to be there. It's going to expect its proxy media to be in the event. It's going to expect its optimized media to be within the event. It's going to expect its original media to be within the event.
Although you could have, when you bring it in, if you brought it in as Symlinks, you could have all that stuff be, on a hard drive, and then have just Symlinks on your local machine. I'm just saying, you're editing on your MacBook Pro, and you've got a ton of footage, and you want to leave it on that hard drive, so you could import it as Symlinks. Create proxy media when you do that.
Yes.
And the proxy media will be created, the real clips will be there in that event on your hard drive, in your computer, and it'll keep that original source footage on that hard drive. You can disconnect the hard drive because you're editing proxy.
You're editing proxy.
Yeah, and then when you're done, so you can go on the road, edit proxy, come back, connect to the hard drive again, say point to that, and then export.
That's right.
So you can keep them separated that way.
That's a good, excellent.
There's always some kind of solution.
There's a lot of flexibility, I think, in this workflow.
I think that's 7:30. I do have a follow-up question from William. I'm going to follow up with you all offline. So any questions that you still have that didn't get answered, if I have them here, we will follow up and answer them. If you still want to ask them at Pixel Core, and then she'll forward them to me or get them into this system here, sign in there if you haven't already. But we're going to get off in just a minute, and we'll follow up. And Carolyn, go ahead. Okay. So she's got a few more questions she's going to pass on, and we'll get to those. We'll try to get to those tomorrow, and we'll email them out to you. Any parting shots?
Is it actually time to be over now?
Oh, we want to keep it a little bit?
For an hour and a half?
It's an hour and a half. It's 7:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
I want to try to not. It's been a long day, and the crew's been fantastic. By the way, our crew has been an outstanding day. We got a lot of work done. So thank you for watching again. Hopefully there was some value in what we're doing. This show will be up on YouTube if you missed it at some point in the near future. I can't tell you exactly when, but look for that, and it'll be in the Pixel Core. If you've seen other shows, it'll show up there, but we'll also tweet it out. So if you follow either of us, at Mark Spen for myself, at Ripple Training for Ripple Training, you'll find out about it that way. That's the best way actually to find out about anything that we're doing in terms of new tutorials, special deals, plugins, what have you, at Ripple Training. Follow, and we also follow on Facebook, and as I mentioned, I have a LinkedIn Apple Motion group there. So, Carolyn, is there anything I need to say that I'm forgetting?
Do you guys want to promote your own Twitter feed, Ripple Training? Where can they find you?
Oh, so I just mentioned that at Ripple Training, our Twitter feed. And just if you're interested in training, rippletraining.com obviously is where we have the world's largest and best collection of training on Motion Final Cut Pro and I mean, I'm tooting my own horn and our
It's
own horn,
okay.
but it's
Toot,
good.
toot, toot,
We have a very large collection of in-depth tutorials now. We've been working very hard over this past year and a half and have a lot training.
You know, I should mention one other thing too, because we just ran a special last night. For those of you who maybe didn't get the email blast, you have till the end of the week. You get it 30% off everything on their site. It's like Apple Pro, APPLE-PRO, Apple Pro is the code. And you can use that to
Apple Pro 30, or just Apple Pro.
Apple Pro.
Apple Pro will get you 30% off anything on the site.
Yeah, anything or exactly.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yep. Till the end of the week.
All right, there you go. So thank you again for watching, and hopefully we will be back next month, and we'll do it again. So thank you very much. Good night, and take care.